How's it going, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to some more Town of Salem 2. In this video, I'll be giving you guys 20 general tips to help you get better at the game. These are tips that I would share with a younger version of myself who was brand new to Town of Salem. So without further ado, let's jump right in. So tip number 1, starting with the basics. Make a will. If you're evil, it's very important for you to make a will because Town is going to be asking for one. The jailer is going to be asking for one. If you get voted, people will want one. If you don't have a will, you will get lynched. If you're Town, make sure you have a will and make sure you keep it updated by the time the night ends, because there's nothing worse than somebody dying and then Town not knowing what they did on their final night, especially if it's a jailer. Tip number 2, keep track of claims. Keeping track of claims in Town of Salem will make you much better at the game. It's going to be hard to do this in the beginning, but keep at it and eventually you'll do it on autopilot. The reason why it's so important to keep track of claims is because it means you have more information at your disposal. If you have more information, it means you will make better decisions than the other players in the game. Tip number 3, post your town investigative results at the beginning of every day. Make sure you do this. Now, on the other hand, if somebody is claiming late town investigative and they don't have a good excuse, like they didn't get rollblocked on night 1, or if someone gets voted for the first time and they post their psychic will, hang them immediately because they're likely evil. Tip number 4, if a town investigative finds someone sus and the other person doesn't claim or defend, hang the person who's getting accused. I see way too many new players defend someone who doesn't even defend themselves. Just hang them. Tip number 5, utilize the whispers. It's very important to take advantage of all the mechanics provided in the game. Whispers is one of them. If you're Town, you should use whispers to form alliances, being mindful that no wildlings are keeping track, but make sure you coordinate with your townies. If you're evil, use whispers to communicate with your teammates and deceive other townies. Make sure you don't whisper your teammates too much because townies who are paying attention might draw some conclusions and find both of you if one of you gets caught. Tip number 6, make sure you actually keep track of whispers. Following whispers will help you predict the future in this game. If you see 2 Town Protect claims start whispering to each other, they're probably speaking about chaining. If somebody claims town killing and then starts asking people for their roles, then they're very likely to be a vigilante or a veteran. Pay attention to this stuff, you'll gain a lot of information. Tip number 7, pay attention to how people vote. In Town of Salem, actions speak louder than words. Someone could have the greatest claim and the strongest will on the planet, but if they're not voting up any evils, something might be off with them. Pay attention to the votes. Tip number 8, put yourself in the Coven's shoes when you're at Town Protect. Ask yourself, who would they attack? Most likely it's going to be the person who found a Coven the previous day. Maybe the seer, maybe a town investigative, maybe the town power, maybe the deputy. Put yourself in the Coven's shoes and go on the person who they're most likely to attack. This leads us to tip number 9, which is identify and kill your biggest threat when you're evil. Now, you might not always be able to do this because you need to pay attention to any town protects who might anticipate that move, but sometimes go for the second strongest threat. Do not attack non-threats. You will lose. Tip number 10, keep track of which faction has majority and when your faction will gain or lose majority. I see a lot of new players not play with enough urgency. Sometimes there's only 1 day left for an evil to get hanged, and if they don't get hanged, you will lose the ability to vote people up during the day. Make sure you're aware of when you lose this ability and hang people accordingly. On the other end, if you're evil, pay attention to when you're going to gain majority. If Town has 5 members and you have 4 Coven alive, maybe today's the day to push. Maybe today's the day to go all out collectively as 4 to get that mislynch. Number 11, identify your win conditions and work towards them. Do not go against your own win conditions. For example, if you're an executioner, don't pretend to check your target and say they're innocent. If you're a werewolf and someone else is being accused of being a werewolf, do not kill that person. It sounds silly, but I see it happen often. If you're pirate and your vote is going to speed up the game, do not vote. Number 12, if you're evil, always have a fake claim ready to go. If you're stuck, claim Town Protect, Town Support, or Town Killing. They'll get you out of a lot of things, especially on day 2. Like on day 2, you don't need a solid claim unless you're getting pushed. So if town's doing a vote for alignment, claim quickly. Just say town protect, town support, town killing. And this will get you through day 2 and day 3. Day 4 and day 5, you'll have to start thinking about your will a little bit more and what you're actually going to claim. But make sure you claim something and make sure you claim quickly. Tip number 13. Back up your teammates if they're in trouble. So this is a super important one. There have been many scenarios where I've seen a teammate get sort of sussed out by town, but a little backup would help them. And then I just see another teammate completely throw him under the bus and add fuel to the fire and completely push him. You don't always have to do this. Sometimes you need to back up your teammate. Like the previous example, if there's 4 Coven and 5 Town and one of your Coven are getting sussed, do not throw your Coven under the bus. You need them. Now, the other half of this tip is know when to cut your losses. Do not follow your teammates to hell. Sometimes they've been triple checked by a sheriff, a tracker, and a psychic. In that case, kick them while they're down. But a lot of the times, a little backup goes a long way. And I also want to add to this. If your Coven is pushing someone, for example, and they want someone guiltied, vote that person up if it's safe to do so, and vote guilty on that person if it's safe to do so. Don't go against your Coven and say give the person a chance, no. Follow your teammate and commit to it. Unless, of course, it's going to completely mess you guys up, but you'll know when it's that scenario. Generally, most times, you should be backing up your teammate. Also, if your teammate's been voted up and you can see that town is sort of unsure about voting guilty or innocent, vote innocent. Backing up your teammates is very important. Tip number 14. This is a role-specific one. Decided to throw it in here because I see it actually happen quite often. Psychics visit in Town of Salem 2. In Town of Salem 1 they couldn't, in Town of Salem 2 they can. Make sure you post where you visited. And if someone posts a psychic will without a visit, hang that person immediately. Tip number 15. Voting isn't always the play. Sometimes, depending on the situation and your role, it's better to let the day stall out without anyone getting hanged. If you're a pirate, sometimes it's good to let the game stall. In fact, many times it's good to let the game stall. If you're Jester, let the game stall. If you find yourself as a lonely townie or a couple townies in a scenario where there's like few Coven, a few neutral apocalypses and neutral killings, don't vote anyone and let the evils tear each other apart. It's better than voting someone up and then letting a different faction gain control. Tip number 16. If someone asks, why me, when voted or pushed, hang that person immediately. If you're town, don't ask why me. Post your will and claim. If you're Jester, say why me. Also want to add to this too, if you're getting pushed as a townie, it's not enough for you to claim town support, town killing, town protect. If you're directly getting pushed, post your full will and your full claim. Because you're getting pushed now. You don't have the luxury to get away with an alignment. Tip number 17. Another role-specific one. If you jail someone, don't say anything. If the first thing they say is hello or hi, execute them immediately. If they don't claim or post, execute them immediately. There is no excuse anymore. The jailer screen is very distinct. It's very obvious. So people can't even claim that, oh, like I didn't notice. It's very noticeable now. There's no excuse. And as a townie, you should post your will and your role immediately without delay or any stalling. Saying hello just makes it look like you're trying to buy time to think of something. Tip number 18. Do not let people steal your claim. If you're a veteran who's killed the Trickster on night 1, for example, and later on in the game, someone claims to be a veteran who's killed the Trickster on night 1, it's time for you to pop out and start counterclaiming. Also be mindful of which roles are unique. If you're a Monarch and someone else is claiming Monarch, it's time for you to pop out and counterclaim because someone is literally trying to steal your identity. Tip number 19. In the late game, sometimes it's better to not attack. Common scenario. 1 Coven, 2 Town, 1 Werewolf. If you're the Coven in this scenario, do not attack. And finally, tip number 20. Pay attention to your position on the list. Pay attention to your number. Being high up on the list means you definitely need a claim ready at least. Being lower down generally means you can chill for a while. If you're a jester and you're low on the list, it might make the game a little harder. So those are my general 20 tips. I guarantee if you follow even half of these, even a quarter of these, you'll get much better at the game. I'll make another one if this video helps. Be sure to like the video to let me know about that. Subscribe for more, and I'll see you in the next one.